Hi, I'm Mitch Shoemaker, and today is day 96 of my doing 100 days of YouTube videos and focusing on my writing. So, yay, I made it to day 96. Very tired. Uh, keep hoping my headache will go away, and it's not working today. I, I can't think today. I apologize. Today is day 96, and my brain is like 1,000 different places. But I went to do some writing, and I was trying to decide what to write. And I was thinking, okay, if I finish Lanoya and the Teachers of Powers, then I need to work on The Fall of Espinglandia, which is, the next book in the series. So that's the whole point. And I read the first chapter that I had rewritten, and I was impressed with myself and my writing. I think I always get surprised and happy and impressed to read something that I wrote, to be sucked into it, to be like, oh, this is really good, or like, oh, I did a really good job introducing all of these characters, like, because there's like 14 characters in the first chapter that I'm introducing, and I feel like, oh wow, because all the times I've done it before and I've shared it with people, they're like, oh, who's that? There's too many people. This doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. And this time I read through it and I was like, wow, I just like totally did like a round robin thing and went around the circle and introduced everybody, and it was pretty awesome. I think I did a pretty good job of that. That's pretty cool. And then I continued to have each of the characters like have conversations. In the second chapter, I read through the first and second chapter. I tightened it up a little bit, made a few changes in sentences, but for the most part, I just left it the way it was because I'm like, wow, this is really good. I'm totally sucked into my story. And and I don't know how long it's been. It's probably been a month or so since I looked at it, wrote anything in it, read anything in it. And if I recall correctly, I was probably somewhere in like chapter 11 or 12 or something, and I started over at chapter 1. Oh, again. I'm so done with chapter 1. But it was just a nice surprise, a nice reminder to me that I am a talented writer, that I can write, that I can get sucked into my own story. And then there was also a couple other random questions in the back of my mind, which I don't like. I really, it's things that require more work for myself or less work for myself. I'm not really sure which. But the whole reason I wrote Lanoya and the Teachers of Powers is to introduce all of the teachers in the Fall of Espinglandia and the kingdom and the powers and all of those things, because I was struggling to find a way to do it in the Fall of Espinglandia. So I'm reading through the first couple of chapters and I'm starting to think, well, maybe I'm kind of introducing all of them and their different powers and what they do, and trying to figure out how to put the seer in there just a little bit, because in order for them to do everything that they're doing, there needs to be slightly more explanation. It's one of those things that keeps playing in the back of my head. I just don't know how to add it to the story, because certain teachers can do certain things with their powers, but in order for them to see and do everything that they're doing, it's because they're combining their powers. So I'm thinking I need to find a way to clarify that. I just need to add something from the main character's point of view that just clarifies it's not just this one teacher's powers, but this power and this power combined that's creating this and this. And I didn't do any kind of combinations like that. I just made some random comments in there, which I think they were good comments, and they point out how the different powers work, especially combined like that. But I left out one that makes it make the most sense. So I need to clarify that, I think, to make it make a little more sense, because right now it makes one of the powers or the teachers seem like he can do something he can't. And I know he can't, and I know it's one of those things, but I know too many people that will tear apart books and stories like this doesn't make sense, or they changed how this works. And sometimes, admittedly, I'm one of those people. I'll watch a TV show or a series or something, and then they change something, or they do something that they said they couldn't do before, and I'm like, I thought they said they couldn't do that, or they could do it and now they're saying they can't do it. And it doesn't make sense in my head when people do that. So I want my books to be consistent. And although in my head I have the explanation and I know how they can do it, I feel like maybe I should put it in the book. So I'm going to have to figure out how to go back and put it in chapter 2, because I don't want that to be like one of those things, questions down the road or something, where people are like, oh, I can't do this. Or like, well, how come this person can't do that? And it's like, well, they can't because their power is not combined with someone else that can. So it's the combination of the powers that allows them to do what they're doing, because without the combination, they can't do it. So I either need to clarify it in this chapter, or I could, because they do some combining of powers at the end, spoiler alert, of Lanoya and the Teachers of Powers, I could add more details, more combining of powers and explanation of how powers work, which would be the whole point of Lanoya and the Teachers of Powers. Or if I do a good enough job in the first 2 or 3 chapters of explaining how all of this works in the Fall of Espinglandia, then Lanoya and the Teachers of Powers kind of becomes obsolete, which would be really frustrating because I've just spent over a year writing and rewriting and trying to figure out Lanoya and the Teachers of Powers, and thinking I'm almost done and ready to have this book published. And now I'm writing reading these chapters in my book, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of answering all the questions, I hope, making this book make sense. So I don't need Lanoya and the Teachers of Powers, which, I mean, I guess I could still have both books, and it would just mean that they could still stand alone. So like someone could pick up either one of those books, I guess, in the series, and not be completely lost or confused. So it'd be cool if they went back and read Lanoya, but they could still understand the Fall of Espinglandia without Lanoya, or they could still understand the next book or the next book. So I kind of would like to have some of the books in my series. I mean, where you could just pick it up and read the book and understand what's going on without having to know all of everything. But I think at some point all the books just kind of intertwine, where you really have to read them for them to make sense. I mean, The Boy from the Stone and The Wise One, or Majolea, whichever one I decide to title that one at this point, they're obviously 2 separate books. So it's not, I mean, they're in the same series, and they're characters that will eventually collide. But in the beginning, it's like you can read all of the books about Majolea, you can read all the books about The Boy from the Stone, and other than a couple of scenes, and if I do it right, they'll be in both books. Maybe not. Maybe you have to read both books. I don't know. Because I might just do one from her point of view and one from his point of view, or both from his point of view. Something. I'm not entirely sure. I think I wanted to do one from both of their points of view, so you have it in both of them. And I think I want to do the second one from his point of view, because I just want to leave the mystery of what she does and to be solved much later, just because it's fun, not because of whatever. But I don't know, we'll see what happens when I write the book. When I finish writing the books, I should say. But that's kind of my plan in my head at the moment. But obviously plans change, and the way that things come out of the story changes too. But the point is that those 2 books you could read separately, but eventually those 2 characters, as they grow, will actually collide, and their stories will overlap. And so, yeah, at some point they all go together. That's the point I'm trying to make, I think. I hope. I'm not even sure if I'm making a point. I'm not sure anything I'm saying is making sense. I just was trying to think about my writing and what I'm writing, and I think I'm kind of freaking out about the fact that I have like 4 days left, and then I have to come up with something for my 100 days, and I was so sure what I was going to do up until like the last couple of weeks, and now I'm just like, have some random ideas, still just kind of everything up in the air, learning a lot of things about myself, trying to figure things out. Once again, reminding myself that I can't force myself to do things, and still needing to learn why I do what I do. I don't know. Still just, yeah, just being myself. There we go. I'm just being myself. I'm still learning to change habits. It's hard to change habits, to do things differently, and I can do it for a few days and be excited about it for a few days, and then it's kind of hard to continue, which makes me grateful for these videos because it gets me to continue. It gets me to do things, but it still is my habit to just, instead of going to bed or doing things, I will stay up until I can't keep my eyes open anymore because it's kind of my excuse. Well, now I'm too tired to do it, but I keep staying awake waiting for myself to do it. So you'd think I'd just face it and do it and be done with it, but I am very good at procrastinating. I wish I was not. That is one of those things that I need to let go of. And I also think I'm a little bit concerned because these videos, as much as I love doing them, kind of they parallel a little bit 12 steps, the 12 steps, because the first step is admitting that your life is powerless. You're powerless over the addict, the alcoholic, the whatever person, place, or thing that you're powerless over, and your life has become unmanageable. Well, clearly my life is unmanageable. I'm insane. We've discussed this over multiple videos, right? The second step has something to do with believing that a power greater than yourself can restore you to sanity, assuming you had any sanity to begin with. So either you can be restored to sanity or you can discover what sanity is. The third step has something to do with aligning your will with the will of your higher power. So just kind of turning your life and your will over to a power greater than yourself, I think is what it is. So it's just kind of like, okay, letting go of what I think is the right thing to do and letting someone else take over. And then the fourth step is a fearless and moral inventory of yourself. And the fifth step is sharing that with a trusted friend, higher power, or someone else. The fifth step is submitted to God, to yourself, and to another person, your defects or of character or something to that effect. So it's basically you do your fourth step and then you share it with somebody, and that's your fifth step. So I kind of feel like in doing this process that I have, in doing my 100 days of gratitude, that it helped me to see how unmanageable my life was. It helped me to find a little bit of sanity, find some things to be very positive about. And it's helped me to start trusting myself and trusting God again, and starting to try to turn things over a little bit. And all of this writing kind of feels a lot like steps 4 and 5, where I have been doing a fearless and moral inventory of myself. I have been discovering a lot of things about myself, the reasons behind why I do things, the fact that I'm still grieving, that I don't know how to describe my emotions, or that I describe my emotions, I just don't know what they are. I can't name my emotions. I don't understand what I'm doing, that I struggle with the day-to-day daily tasks and taking care of myself. So it's kind of a whole list of things that I am becoming aware of, and that I am sharing all of these things that I have become aware of. And then steps 6 and 7. Step 6 is something to do with character defects, becoming willing to I don't remember step 6. It's something about character defects. Step 7 is humbly asking to have all these defects of character removed. So step 6 is something to do with becoming aware of all of your character defects. So it's kind of like, okay, now I'm aware of all these crazy things that I keep doing, and then asking God to remove all these crazy things that I'm doing. And then step 8 is making a list of all people you've harmed, and step 9 is making amends to all those people, and then step 10 is starting all over. Step 10 isn't like really starting all over, but it feels like it's kind of a starting all over, because step 10 is continuing an inventory. So it's kind of like a mini step 4 of just basically continuing to be aware of what you're doing and making amends wherever appropriate. I don't have my little list somewhere. I can't read them out accurately. So I'm not not remembering them word for word. For all the times we read these every week, I don't remember them. But, and then step 11 is seeking God's will for me through prayer and meditation. And then step 12 is carrying the message. So I'm kind of, in a way, sort of carrying the message through all of this, which a lot of people say when you do program, you start working it and making changes and doing things. And then you share it with the rest of the world as you're going through the process. And people see the changes in you and they start asking you. And so step 12 is just something you kind of do along the way. So anyway, I go back and forth between all of the steps and all of those things. So I feel like I'm in the process of doing all of these steps. And of course, then step 6 would be the the character defects. So it would be recognizing my character defects and then humbly asking God to remove them. And I don't know if I've done some of that, maybe a little bit of that in my writing, doing this. And I know I'm working on a lot of things. So I guess part of me is a little apprehensive about doing another 100 days because I'm like, now what am I going to have to face? What am I going to have to learn? What am I going to have to uproot? What am I going to have to change? And I know it's good for me to make these changes. These are positive changes. These are things that God is helping to use to heal me, to heal my heart, to help me be open to future relationships, to be open to living my life, to experiencing life, to enjoying life, to having all those things that I want in my life, and not feeling weighed down, not feeling burdened or guilty, not being afraid to succeed, not being afraid to move forward, but just enjoying things. And so I feel like I'm kind of at this, it's not really a crossroads, but it kind of feels like it, because I'm like, well, I'm coming to the end of my 100 days. And if I don't start another 100 days, then I can take a break. I can stop. But I don't want to stop, because I have like this nice little momentum going, because I'm still learning about myself every time that I do these videos, and all the things that I don't think that I want to face, they all come out when I make my videos. They all come out when I write in my journal. And I always feel better, which I'm grateful for. So I'm also grateful for the patience of all the people that choose to watch these videos, even though it's just a handful of people at this point, because, it's just me and my crazy ramblings while I discover things about myself, while I work through my personal issues so that I can do my writing. Because that is something too, when you're writing, when you're sharing things, when you're sharing talents, developing talents, it can be frustrating sometimes, because you're learning and you're not going as quickly as you want, or you think that you learned something or memorized something, and you sit down to do it, to play it, to write it, and it comes out all wrong. And you're like, man, I've done this 1,000 times. How come I can't do this today? The one time. Or, you do like some kind of art and you finally get to do like an exhibit or something, and it's just, you're nervous. Is someone going to buy it? Is someone going to like it? What are they going to say? And you have to wait for that review, for that praise. And it's nerve-wracking. It's scary to put yourself out there. And then it's like, okay, I believe that I have talent and I've written something really good. Other people that I've talked to, friends, family, they believe that. But what about perfect strangers? So my writing group friends sent my book to perfect strangers. So I'm a little nervous to see what the response on that's going to be. If I need to add more, take some out, or if I need to just start all over, or if it's actually good enough that I can maybe just find someone to edit it and publish it. That's the even scarier part to me, that I could just be ready to publish a book. That's so exciting and so scary. And yeah, I think I'm giving myself a headache over it. It's the angst. Excuse me, the mix of emotions that I have spent a lifetime shying away from, and now I am trying to force myself to face. And I can't force myself. I want to. I try to. I really do. But I am learning and continue to learn that I do not like to be forced. I do not like to be shoved. I do things when I'm ready to do them. And I can't make myself do things before I'm ready. And I can't make myself do things before it's the right timing. God's timing, not my timing. So I keep thinking, I'm going to do this and it's going to work, and I'm going to do this and it's going to work. And it keeps not working. And maybe it's because I keep trying to do my will and not God's will, because I'll turn it over for a little bit and then I'll freak out because I'm not in control, and I'll try to take the control back and I'll screw it all up. And then I'm like, okay, I can breathe. I can do this. I just have to trust God and it will be okay. And I do it for a little bit and it's okay. And it's okay. And I'm freaking out and I take it back. and then I screw it all up again. And I was like, no, I was doing so good. Okay, God, I'm sorry. I'll stop taking control. I just, I haven't learned how to stop taking control. And the reality is I don't actually have control. I just take back the illusion of having control, or I go back to where I keep trying to tell God what I'm going to do for the day and ask him to make me do it. And every time I do that, he just kind of smiles and says, yeah, Midge, that's not how it works. I don't force people to do things. You have your free agency, and I will never take that away. I will not make you do anything. And it's like, I know, but could you just make me do this because I need to do it? And he's just like, nope. If you want to do it, you can get up and do it. And if you don't want to do it, I'm not going to make you. And I'm like, oh. And then sometimes I'll get up and do it. And other times I'm just like, I can't make myself do it either. Darn it. And then I just need to remember, well, then what can I do today? What can that help me do today? And I don't always remember to ask for that help. I sometimes just give in to the unknown emotions because I don't know what they are. I don't know how to deal with them. So I just like, screw it. I'm just not going to do anything. And sometimes I think it's a good thing. Sometimes I think I do just need a break from everything. And sometimes it's just nice and relaxing and it's good for me. And other times I start not being nice to myself because, I took a day off of work and I'm like, I was being lazy. And I'm like, I wasn't being lazy. I was catching up on some sleep. I needed some sleep. Trying to be nice to myself. And then I feel like I'm being lazy. Those not nice words just pop into my head. Those berating words. And it's like, oh, I need to just get rid of those out of my subconscious. I need to get rid of those default negative things. But it's hard to uproot those things. It's hard to make those changes. And I know those changes occur, and they occur gradually. And they've been occurring as I've been doing these videos. And I'm grateful I have these videos I can look back on to do. But that's also something that makes me nervous about doing marketing, because one, I don't have a book to market, and two, because it means I have to learn a bunch of new stuff that I have no idea how to do. So yay for that. It also means that if I choose to do thumbnails for my YouTube videos, that I might actually have to watch myself, and I'm not entirely sure I'm ready to do that either. So and then I just feel like I'm putting up barriers, and I don't want to keep putting up barriers. I want to take them down, and I keep taking them down, and I'm like, yes, they're down, but they're in these stupid little piles that I have not quite figured out how to get rid of, and then they just kind of build themselves back up again, and it's like, why? I thought I knocked you down, and they just keep coming back up again, like the little vines or something, and you cut them down and they just grow back up, and you cut them down and they just grow back up, and you're like, oh, and you gotta dig them out at the roots. That's the thing. You gotta dig them out at the roots, and you gotta plant something else in their place so they can't grow back. And my problem is I just cut them down and pretend that they're gone, and then they grow back. And I was like, oh. But then it makes me grateful that, one, I'm a writer, and two, that God gives me these lovely little metaphors to help me understand myself, and to understand that, yes, I can cut things down and it makes it a little bit easier, but then I still have to dig them out and uproot them, and I still have to find something else to replace them with, because if I don't, they're just gonna grow back, which is frustrating. They're nice and thorny, and they get big and bushy, and kind of like the whole Sleeping Beauty thing, when those big old thorns, and they cover the entire palace, and you can't get in, and you have to, cut your way through, and yeah, anyway. I've cut them down to a much more manageable size, but they still cut me when I try to get through, and they still aren't gone. So, and maybe they will never be completely gone, but I think they can, be trimmed down to at least a manageable size. A few of them can be dug out, maybe have some other stuff growing around there so they don't have as much control. Still not really sure how to do that, but I like the idea. Anyway, I will have to figure out something else for my other 100 days because I like that doing these videos helps me to keep moving forward. It helps me to continue to see my patterns, to see my struggles, to know that I haven't given up. That as long as I'm still doing videos, as long as I'm still writing, as long as I'm still working towards my goals, then it means I haven't given up and I haven't failed, which means I'm succeeding at something. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful that God has given me these gifts and allowed me to find some way to share them and is giving me the courage to share them. And also, I'm grateful that He's giving me the time to develop them and the time to become more confident in myself and my abilities. To be able to read over something and just be like, oh wait, this is really good. This would be amazing. Other people would like to read this too. Kind of books that I would pick off a bookshelf and read and be like, hey, mine can compare to something like that. So maybe it is good enough to put out there. And I'm grateful for that because it helps me to be a little less apprehensive in moving forward. And so it's just, I'm grateful that God is giving me the time and the opportunity to see my gifts and my talents, to allow myself to grow and to learn and to help me to be vulnerable and put myself out there. But it is a process and it's not easy and it takes time. And I hope that the more that I do this, the easier it becomes, or the less concerned I get, the more confident I become, and the more that I can trust God, regardless of what the outcome is, or regardless of how long it takes to reach the final goal that I'm looking for, because I know God has a plan and His timing is perfect and mine is not. And I can't push God's timetable any more than I can push myself to do things that I'm not ready to do, even though I want to do them. So I'm just grateful that I can learn these things about myself and be aware of them and share them. And hopefully that's helping other people so you don't feel like you're alone. And hopefully I'm not the only crazy person that struggles with these things. But if this is helpful or if you like these videos, you can hit like, subscribe, share with someone else if you think they'll like it too. And I hope you have a great day full of gratitude and maybe do some writing.